Hey everyone, welcome to Mike Brooks Now. Today I want to share my first property story with you. How my wife Elisa and I invested in our first property in Los Angeles and some lessons learned as you consider investing in real estate yourself. Before I get started, if you're enjoying my videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It will motivate me to make more and then we all win, right? So getting started with the story, the year was 2015 and after 5 years of languishing in the entertainment industry, I made the leap and got my real estate license. Now, one would think that by learning about how to build wealth for others through real estate, I would be ready to do that for myself as quickly as possible. Well, if you thought that, you would be wrong. I blame two factors for my thinking. One, I had a renter's mentality. The home market seemed so inaccessible to me. It was very expensive. It was fraught with the unknown. I had never before considered how I could buy a home there. I didn't consider what my expenses versus income would be. I only looked at the price tags and thought, yeah, that would be nice. Two, I didn't want to give anything up. At the time, Elisa and I shared a one-bedroom apartment in West Hollywood, and we really loved the location. It was central to the rest of the city, and there were a ton of amenities nearby. If I was going to live in LA, and LA is not the easiest place to live, I thought I want to be in the best location possible. So Elisa and I for some time tossed around the idea of buying a house, and you know what? She talked me into it, and I'm very happy that she did. It was made real by the fact that her parents would be helping us with the down payment. So I'm going to stop the story for a moment. I don't want to embellish anything and just preface that this, of course, is not possible for everybody. Everybody doesn't have that ability. We were very lucky to have her parents help on that. And depending on what market you're in and, of course, the average home price, it may be easier or harder to save up from the down payment. So at the time, the average home price in LA was $562,000, according to Zillow. That sounds pretty good today. The average price in Arizona at the time was $188,000. That's so even better. Times have quickly changed, of course. It would have been much easier for us to buy a home in Phoenix, and had we not been able to long term, that might have been a consideration for us at the time. We were approved for an FHA loan at the time, up to a purchase price of $450,000. So with an FHA loan of 3.5%, our down payment would have come out to just over $15,000 per month. Or not per month, $15,750 down payment. So the interest rate ended up being about 3.875%. So our monthly payment, that's the PITI, which is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, came out to about $29.50 per month. Now, considering that I was starting in real estate and that's a field with a base pay of $0 an hour, there is no way that I could afford that. So even though we had her parents' support on help with the down payment, because it was so little down and the size of the loan was so large, we couldn't have afforded that per month. So we decided to house hack. So for the unfamiliar, house hacking is defined as living in one of the multiple units of your investment property as your primary residence and having the renters from the other units help pay your mortgage and expenses. So not only would our monthly costs be lower, they would be helping us pay into our equity, which would accumulate every single month. So now I had overcome the renter's mentality and we had a plan. Things were starting to come together. But we had to be willing to live the area that we loved living in, West Hollywood, and we had to move somewhere that we could afford let's just say, had fewer amenities than WeHo. Even then, there were only so many options available to us, and they were mostly in Southeast LA. And we looked at a few areas. We considered homes in Inglewood, Long Beach, and we ended up buying a cute little duplex in Boyle Heights, which for the unfamiliar is just across the river from downtown LA, very close to the Arts District. Really nice location. We assumed to be coming up more and developing over time as well. So a lot of potential for the area. And you know what though, I will say, it was not West Hollywood, of course, but it did have the best street tacos in town, and I maintain that to this day. Duplex itself was not perfect. Front yard was made up of a dead avocado tree. There were dead rose bushes, just dead everything, assumed dead everything. Crabgrass. The inside was painted a really unattractive color. It was like an off orange, and the walls were very, very textured, like overly. It's like somebody went to Home Depot, got one of the textured cans, and just went to town. Carpet was old. There was even a weird inside door that connected both separate units, so you could go from one to the other. And of course, we'd have to seal that up if we were planning on renting the other unit, which we were. So, but even with that work to do, we were really excited to buy our first home. So we did, and we rented out the second unit to a really wonderful couple. They still live there today, and their starting rent was $1,500 a month. So that cut our monthly expenses in half. Over the next 3 years, we lived there, we improved the property, and we ended up leaving for Phoenix, renting out the other unit that we lived in. So for the last 2 years, we've netted about $1,000 a month over our expenses while continuing to pay down the loan and build equity. So where are we today? So today, the home is worth over $650,000. Remember, we bought it at $450,000, and with pay down, the current balance on the loan is about $400,000. So that means that we have over $250,000 in equity on a property that we bought 5 years ago with just over $15,000 down. So, if you take anything away from the story, I'd like to depart you with the following lessons, and I love sharing this story with people. First of all, don't maintain a strong opinion about something that you have no experience with, like I did. Before you want something, start thinking about the baby steps it will take to get there. Before we bought the first house, it seemed like something completely out of my comfort zone. Even though I was getting involved in real estate, it just didn't seem like it would be real for us. But now that I've done it, and I help others do it on a daily basis, I look at all real estate as accessible one way or another. There is always a way, you just need to plan. 2, be willing to make a short-term sacrifice for something that will have an outsized benefit long-term. So sure, we could have continued living in West Hollywood. I really loved it there. I would have had a shorter commute to my office and lived in a nice IKEA renovation closer to the ocean, of course, and that would have been great. But we would have missed out on 5 years of wealth building and ownership experience. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Lastly, hindsight really is 20/20. As much as I have learned by helping others, never did I learn as much as I did by helping myself. You can prepare as much as you want before finally pulling the trigger on a decision, but there needs to be a point where you feel comfortable enough to move forward. Accept that you will make mistakes along the way, but just go for it. That's all for me today. Thank you for tuning into Mike Brooks Now. Please consider subscribing, and see you next time.